Hi friends, my name is Megan and welcome to episode 59 of A Naughty Mess Knitting Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. My name is Megan. I live in the Pacific Northwest with my husband, our daughter, and my mom Cindy, plus our dog Winter. She's a very important family member. This is a knitting diary podcast video series where I just talk about the whips that I am making, finished objects. I like to discuss the yarn and the patterns for all of these things. I also spin yarn. Sometimes I crochet. That's really all I got for you. And I always talk about books because I'm always reading something. So let's get into it. We've got a fun episode. I don't know what I'll label this one, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be called like Drowning in Whips because I did a thing this week and, we'll all feel a way about it together. It's okay. Okay. So, as a reminder of a couple of, housekeeping things, I am an affiliate for Iris Makes. I'm not making any of her patterns right this minute, but, she recently released the Haley sweater, which I don't know if I really discussed like around release weekend because I finished it way before, but the Haley sweater is out, which is a full sleeve version of the Haley pullover. There are some differences in the pattern other than just that they're sleeves. The sleeves are gorgeous though. I wore mine the other day and it made me happy. And I'm always wearing a lipstick that I feel matches my outfit of the day. And if you would like 10% off of any of the lipsticks I'm wearing, usually I'm wearing a Lime Life by Gaughan lipstick, and there's a link below for that. Plus, all these things in the very beginning. We are it's the 19th of September, and we have 11 days left until the Podcaster Collection Fiber is going away. So, and Trisha will have it up and down the East Coast at shows this fall, but the pre-order does close on the 30th at the end of the month. That's also the last time you can use the discount code, which is, and maybe I'll flash it up here, who knows, A Naughty Mess, just all caps, no spaces, and it is 15% off your order. You can only use it once. So those are my housekeeping things. I'm going to put this down below too because I made the announcement last week, but my husband and I are looking to adopt baby number 2. I got a couple of questions, but I sort of explained it last time, but like we're doing a private adoption, which really means it's totally word of mouth. So if you know someone or just like really in your community, if you could spread the word for us, it can be, you don't have to like post anything or really do anything, but I'll be sharing stories periodically on my knit Instagram too. So if you could just like reshare those, that would be awesome. That's really all. It's just word of mouth. We're just hoping. And we can adopt in any state in the US. Our preference would be Washington only because then we have a little one. We have a 2-year-old. And so then we don't have to travel. But we are able to adopt in any state. So that is what I have to tell you. Those are all of our quick 3 minutes of housekeeping, and let's get into it. So I have stuff to share. My first thing to share, well, I guess I'll talk about this first. Let me do this first. So I pulled up notes. I'm all ready. This is the Friendship Pullover. I feel like I'm very dark today. It's actually like not sunny. It's not bright, I guess, but it's the morning, but I feel very dark. Anyway, this is the Friendship Pullover by Amy Sher. I made this last October, and this is a size E. It's a 50.25 inch bust circumference. Recommended ease is 4 inches. That's, approximately what I have. I don't think I put the final measurements in Ravelry for this, but I think I was pretty on gauge, and I used 4.25 millimeter needles for the body, 3.75 for the ribbing millimeter. And this is all in Back Loop Yarn Co. Basic worsted in a color called Dreamland 2.0. It's not really available because this was a slight formula change for the dark teal, which came out a lot darker than what Dreamland actually looks like. But Erin showed me pictures and I decided I still wanted it after she dyed it, and it's gorgeous. It is hard to kind of tell in camera, but maybe that's a little bit better. It is in real life like a dark bluer leaning teal, but it's very much a teal color. It's not like as dark as this makes it look. And this pattern is bottom up with a compound raglan, which was really fun. It was the first time I did that. You knit the body, and then you, instead of splitting for front and back and doing front and back like any kind of drop shoulder or set in sleeves type situation, you just, you know, split 4 sleeves. You split part of the body, and then you do increase or you do decreases to make the compound raglan. And compound raglan just means that you may have a different rate at some point in the sweater between your arms and your body increases. That's all that means. That usually gives it some sort of like curved effect, which is more like what your body looks like. And so, and Amy Scher's her design elements are really great. She's very thoughtful about how the clothes fit on a body. Okay, this is 100% superwash merino. It's 218 yards for 100 grams. That's all I have to tell you. I wear this a lot. I love it. This was a make along with Ariel. I think we had some other people watching the podcast who made with us, not that many. It was my first make along, maybe. Yeah. And it was really fun. And so we had a really tight time limit. We finished this in 5 weeks, but I mean, it's a worsted sweater, and we wanted to wear it together when we did pictures at our knit weekend away, which we had last fall. So let's go on to a couple of things. One, I can't show you, but I have a finished object, and that is my Aurora Camisole, which is a pattern by Sari Nordlund, who is Sari N on Instagram. She is releasing a new book. So she did put up like maybe early in the week, she put up a call for her book, a second call. Maybe it was middle of last week. Anyway, there were a couple other tank tops on there. I'm not sure what else. I didn't even really look. Maybe there was a scarf, like a little shawlette thing. Anyway, these are tests for her book. They have relatively the same time. Okay, so I will say this. I very much enjoy the look of Sari Nordlund's patterns. I have made a couple and I've liked them. I don't test for her normally because she has a very short test timeline. Like most of them are 4 to 5 weeks. And a lot of times it's the requirement of just the yoke and a sleeve, which she has designed a lot of patterns. Maybe she knows how that fits. I don't agree with that as a testing technique, generally speaking. I think that everybody should be given enough time to make the full garment, not only because I think that'll reveal any kind of weird fit issues. Sometimes you need the whole garment to make sure your arm size is the right place and feel, and there's not too much fabric underneath, and there's just other things. But for everyone of all sizes to have it done so that when you release the pattern, you can kind of celebrate all your testers. It's not something Sari does a lot. She's great about reposting anytime you post any pictures of your makes of her patterns, whips, or finished objects. Whoever runs her Instagram, maybe it's her, does a great job of really pulling all of them that happen. But I think that's a really important piece of testing because I want to be celebrated. I did all this work for free, but also I, as a buyer, want to see it on other bodies rather than just Sari. I know how Sari's patterns fit Sari, but I want to know how they fit other people. That's all I have to say about it. So normally I would not be testing for her, but I want to be in her book. You can say what you will about it. It doesn't matter. I want to be in the book, so I'm testing for her this time. Also, this is a camisole. There's no sleeves. It was a 5-week test period. I'm done. I'm more than a week ahead of time. It is drying right now because it's 85% cotton and 15% alpaca, and that thing is, and I'm holding it double, and it is taking, I mean, it's been more than 24 hours, and it feels very much not dry yet. So there's that. I need to get the weight and the final, dry measurements just, I guess, a notes out to Emma who runs her test, but I will do that hopefully tomorrow. So I'm done ahead of time. I can get my name in the book. It's very exciting. Okay, I can't show it to you anyway because it's a secret test, so I can't say anything about it. I'm not even gonna tell you other details because it doesn't matter. You can't see the fit. It's very cute though. There is something I'm gonna tell Emma about the fit of it, and it's not anything that, it's not gonna rock anyone's world, right? But I do have some notes, and I will show you all in the spring sometime when Sari starts releasing the photos of the patterns. So nothing to show here, but it is complete. It's off my needles, project done, thank goodness. I got it done in time. Now let's talk about a finished other thing. So I finished a spin. This is my palette cleanser spin, and I'm gonna do, my next spin is gonna be a bat. I'm really hoping I can stick to that. I feel really nervous, but I want to try a supported long draw with some woolen prepped fiber. I do have some in my stash, and I've just been waiting, but I have one that I got like an art bat from, like a mystery kind of fiber buy from somebody on a D-stash, and I don't like the colors. It's just not me colors, they're fine, but I am going to use that as my tester because I don't care how it turns out. It'll be fine either way, right? And then because I have some prismatic fiber, we got a flock that I really want to get spun up this year. So I've got reasons why, and also because I made my first woolen spun garment and I'm in love with it. So if I could woolen spun a sweater at some point, that would be fun. That would be really fun. Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves because I'm not making another sweater until I actually make a sweater. Oh, I wanted to have a swatch this week. I will post it on Instagram as soon as I have it. I did borrow Ariel's yardage counter, but I have a new thing coming in the mail today, and I want to use that as well to help wind the yarn, and it's a winder is what it is. So I will do that, and also I just ran out of time this week. Okay, so let's talk about this spin. This spin is, I'm pretty sure this is 100% Corriedale. This is dyed by Backloop Yarn and Fiber, Erin, and it is, I think it's 100% Corriedale, and this one's called Veggie Patch. And you can see it's so cute. This is a little 2-ply. This one is my leftovers from my split was not very even, which it's fine. Also my first bobbin was thinner than the second one, not like super noticeably, but after spinning the Shanico, I feel really spoiled. Like the Shanico is just it's easier to draft. And so soft, like soft while you're working with it, soft when you spin it, it plumps up more when you wash it, all of the things. This is a relatively thin, I also wanted to do a thinner spin because I've been doing a couple of like DK weight spins, and you know, it's just good practice to go back and forth, I think, so I don't get stuck. So this one's pretty thin. I have the full skein here. I over apply this a little bit, which I'm gonna be, I think, happy working with it, but you can see some of these little doodads. They're just like little pops. It's fine. Yeah, the colors are pretty. It's predominantly green, but there's a really pretty teal that runs throughout, and a really pretty like mauvey reddy pink color that leans to brown at parts of it. So it just like feels very Veggie Patch. It's like not my most fall color I have by any means, but like it felt like the end of summer, and that's what I wanted to spin. So it's Corriedale. And yeah, it was a totally nice spin. Like Corriedale is fine. I don't dislike spinning it. I did my first like couple minutes though spinning it. I was like, wow, this is so sticky. Like I felt like I was like, and it's very woolly. Like I felt like I could just feel the hairs different than how merino is just like this plush cloud of loveliness anyway. And Shanico, both. So yeah, my next spin will be an art bat. We'll talk about it hopefully next week. I mean, I'm gonna try to keep spinning. I've been spinning like a little bit every day. So this took me longer. It was only 4 ounces, but it took me most of the week to do. I did take a weekend off of spinning, which was good and fine. And it was nice. I mean, it's totally nice to do. It's just, I miss my Shanico. I got to keep doing the other things. Like I've got some cornrow braids here I want to do pretty soon too, so I can have them ready for January and, you know, other things. Okay, let's go on to whips. Okay, so the first whip we were talking about this week, just like most weeks, we're going to be doing all the way till the end of the year. It's a quick check-in on the Heirloom Quilt Cardigan by Katherine Seeberger, who is at Katherine Seeberger on Instagram. It's patchwork quilt squares that get sewn into a more like a jacket than like a true cardigan. It's a super oversized, like looks like you're wearing a quilt on your shoulders kind of situation. So I am aiming for 2 a week. These are size 2 squares. And this was square number 1 this week, which is this gold, dark gold color and blue. It's super pretty. And then here is the second one I finished this week, which was just last night. And this one is like a rose color and tan. And again, my ends are not woven in. I do think I can't leave them till the end. I'm at 8 squares now, which means I have almost 10, I think. So next week I will hopefully just, I'm like really trying to front load these on my between podcast weeks, so I like try to do them over the weekend really. So hopefully, actually, if I can do it this weekend, I will finish both of them and then sew in ends and block the 10 I have, so I can see, you know, I just need to be able to like measure them consistently, and it would be nice. I can't do 36 at the end. That would drive me nuts. Okay, this is all DK tweed from ZZ Textiles from her colors collection. I'll go over all the colors eventually. I think what I'll probably do actually is, oh, this is called Eggshell. That's what this color is called. This just came to me. The labels are all like tucked inside the balls and I just haven't pulled them back out. I am going to, once they're blocked maybe, so including next week's, I'll bring them all down so we can kind of look at like the colors. Like some of them are going to be more of this like not as high contrast, and then we've got some like more easy to see. It'll just be fun. I just like I love them all together. They're so cute. Okay, that is that. Let's move along to my Belmullet Pullover. So this is a test for Andrea Gaughan. It's not due till the end of the year almost. I think it's like, I think it's December 1st, but that's a long time from now. It is an all over top down textured cabled, it's mostly cabled. I guess there's a seed stitch section in here. Sweater. It is like Aran weight, worsted weight. I am using Malabrigo worsted, which is like 210 per 100 grams or something like that. Oh yeah, 210 yards per 100 grams. It is 100% merino, so it's a non-superwash, but it's like a single ply, so it's a very silky feeling yarn, but I think it'll plump up a little bit. She used, I think, Lucky Tweed from Kelbourne Woolens, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember, but it looks a little bit more fisherman-y than hers does and than mine does, just because of the kind of yarn I'm using. Like hers looks more like rustic fisherman-y, which I really love the look of, but like I had this in stash and I gotta use it. So this is a size 5. It's 53¼ inches. Recommended ease is 6 to 8 inches. For me, that's 6 and a little bit. I am using 5mm needles for the body. The recommended needles is 4.5, so I did have to size up one, partly because this yarn is a little bit slipperier and less textured. And then, yeah, this color is called Water Green. I made really great progress. So last week I had, if you remember, we had this discussion. I had done like a tiny bit of the shoulder, and I could tell that I was in a new ball of yarn, and it was a little bit too dark for me. So I did rip it out. You can still tell there's a tiny bit of like, this is almost like a more saturated, like a little bit bluer, like the beginning of this ball, but it was the closest one I could find. And I redid the pickup. I finished the front left, did the front right. You can see my little Hello Lavender tiny baby cutie latte stitch marker just at the shoulder there. So the shoulder, like many of these kind of knits that have been happening recently, it sits more on the back, sits right there kind of on the back piece. And then I did actually connect another ball of yarn once I joined the bodies. So I actually got through that whole, That's true, I think. Yeah. I got through the whole entire front with one ball of yarn. And the back panel I finished with like this much yarn. That's why I started a new one at that shoulder. Like it's very little bit. I just need to cut that off. I was thinking about starting a sleeve with it, but it's gonna get me like one round on the sleeve, so that doesn't seem significant enough. Anyway, so I used one ball, joined it, and then I joined a second ball at the beginning of round, and I will helically knit this because it's just the dye. I don't know if they're all the same dye lot or like they're just a little bit different, and that happens. This is all kettle dyed yarn. And I think the consistency is usually pretty good, but with this color, because it's kind of a wishy-washy, like sea foamy green, it was kind of obvious at the shoulder. So I want to just be able to like helically knit this. So if there's a little variation, hopefully it won't look very striped. I went back through, I have like 9 or 10 skeins of this. So I went back through and I did like look them under natural light and found the lighter. So I'll have like the 5 lightest colors picked out first. If my sleeves are a little bit different, we all know I won't care about that. So here we are. And I mean, I feel like this was good work. I did all of this like Friday and Saturday. I was having a great time. The gauge is so nice on this, so I love it. It's so cute. Yeah, I'm really digging it. I do think like, I don't want to sit on it. I don't want to like my gauge to change or anything. So I will continue working on this every week. I think my goal will just be to get like, 3 to 4 inches of body, which shouldn't take me super long, and like just do more small nuggets for the next couple of weeks while I have some other big projects I need to get finished. The closest test timeline was the Aurora. Now my next closest is the next thing we'll talk about, which is my 3 Seasons pullover. Last week, I'll show you my stitch progress keeper. Let me find it. My progress keeper's here. This is the back panel, and I was, about halfway done with it. And then this is Pattern and a Test for Wool and Pine Designs, who is, that is a, I don't know, design collective, let's call them, run by Abbye and Selena. They're both from the Pacific Northwest. They're both super lovely humans. And yeah, so I've tested for them a couple of times. I am making a size, I guess let's go over this before I talk to you about some of these things. 5 also. This is a 50-inch. Recommended ease is 4 to 8 inches, and I am also using 5mm needles. That's actually so nice that I'm not knitting cable projects, or at least these two, at a different gauge. It's like they're very similar gauge. And the yarn is relatively similar. This is similar in plumpness, very different yarns. This is Cascade Yarns Cantata in Plum, which is color 21. It is a 70% cotton, 30% superwash merino, 218 yards for 100 grams. Similar in like size and plumpness, but this feels very dramatically different. Like it definitely has that like matte feel of cotton. It is a blown tube construction, and we know I've had feelings about blown tube construction yarn before, but I really love this. It's much softer than my very crunchy, awful Skyline top. So yeah, I'm digging it. This is really fun. So this is like all over like lace, this kind of fun texture, which is called a pearl twist, and then a big cable pattern. So I was about halfway done the back. I finished the back. I did the ribbing, which I did go down, I think, just to a 4.5mm needles. Yeah, for the ribbing. It's a 2x2 ribbing, and they have actually a faux sewn bind off, which is really interesting. So it does actually, like, I mean, I think this is stinking smart. It on this side very much does kind of look like a sewn bind off. And if you flip it to the inside, you can see that it looks also here more like a regular bind off. Cause like real true sewn bind offs, it does fully look like on both sides of the fabric that it's a sewn bind off. This does not, but it's the way that it pulls those knit stitches up. It makes it look like it's a sewn bind off. I think that's really smart. They have like a technique video on how to do it. It was not hard at all, to way faster and easier to do, and I like it. It does not have a ton of stretch. Because this garment has enough ease, that's okay with me. I wouldn't use it for everything personally. But if you hate a sewn bind off and you don't want just like a bind off in pattern, this is a really cool technique. Okay, so I finished that, and then I went and I picked up a shoulder, and I've got to hold this up for you. So from further back, you can see that like the lace pattern is pretty seamless going from the back to the front, but you do a different pattern. So this is my purl twist section here on the back, and then I start my cable pattern. So there is a difference, but like it's because it is a provisional cast on, wow, words, it is like it was really easy to pick it up. Yeah, wow, that is pretty seamless on. I didn't even look at that on the shoulder. That's amazing. And then you start your from the purl twist here. Yeah, how good is that? Wow, that's so good. Anyway, I picked up the left side, finished it. I picked up the right side and finished it. And I joined in the under V. It's not joined in the body because again, I'm done my back panel. So I have like pretty much, I did do some repeats after I joined, like, I mean, some rounds, like I think I did 3 or 4, but I finished my ball of yarn. So it was a good stopping point for me. Ariel, if you watch her podcast, also feels this way. Getting to a finished ball of yarn before a podcast is really nice because I'm not connected to anything. It's much easier to hold out without getting tangled. Also just feels like a good stopping point sometimes, you know? So this is where my arm side is. And then the V is pretty deep on this. It is a good 1.5 to 2 inches of ribbing that I'll do after, including picking up this provisional cast on too, and then I'll just pick up stitches. So it looks super deep, but it's not going to be that deep. Like it's still going to be relatively conservative. Like I'm not worried about how it's going to fit. And so, yeah, I mean, I have like probably at least 10 inches of body to do, which I'm going to try to get through this week. I really have to, because this test is due 3 weeks from now, and I want to be done in the first week of October. So that's only 2.5 weeks from now. So really I need to finish the body like this weekend, before this weekend is over, sew it up, and then start a sleeve like all before next episode. So hopefully I'm there. Maybe I'll just do the neckline too. That would probably help. It'll help with sleeve stuff. So anyway, I'm gonna get it going, but I feel really good about the progress. At least that was a good place. And I again stopped this one probably pretty early in the week, like maybe Monday I was done that stuff. So it felt nice because I did some crazy things then. Let's talk about still more whips though. We'll get to the other things in a minute. This little cutie, and sorry, I pulled the drawstring a weird way on this one. This little cutie is in my just lay flat to dry bag, which is a gift from Katie. And it's like the cutest little sheepy ever. Okay, this is my Lauder Vest. I'm making progress. If you're watching Ariel's podcast, she's also we're making this one together. And hers looks bigger than mine. It's partly because her holding it up is always going to look different because she's a tiny, tiny human. But I swear it does actually look, I haven't seen hers in person since we cast on together. And our back panels were looking, and I've recast on with a different size needle. I bumped up a size, and it's still looking so small. I'm not going to think about it. It's going to be fine. Somebody wrote in the comments last week or the week before that, like, yes, it does. It must have been last week that, like, it is weird because I was talking about how, like, the sizes sort of stick together and then it seems like this wouldn't be a big enough back panel. But she said, trust the process. And I said, okay, I'm going to do that. So this week I had finished the back panel last time. You'll see this is part of my Flock 2024 stitch markers from Hello Lavender. So that was on the shoulder. So I finished the front and right shoulders and I joined in the round. I'm fully joined in the round now. And so I got 3 joined in the rounds for my cable projects. You guys, that's like so significant. Not that I actually really like knitting cables flat because almost always the purl side is just knit and pattern, right? So there's no thinking. This way I have to remember if I'm on a cable round or a non-cable round, but this one is really easy. I now know what the pattern is. There's not going to be anything that really changes significantly. This is a pattern by Rebecca Clow, who is the Crayabea. She put in this pattern, it's just called Lauder, so don't look up Vest or something on just Lauder on Ravelry, but it was released in the summer. It's a great pattern. It's got tons of options, but what I will say, as I've said this before for Rebecca's patterns, and we are not at the end, so I haven't done the armhole shaping, but getting to the join of the body is a good, I've done a lot of the pattern, like a lot of, because then it's just like knit and pattern for 10 inches or whatever. Her patterns are definitely not, I don't think they're beginner friendly. I mean, maybe an adventurous beginner, but you have to understand more about construction because she doesn't write them for beginners. She makes some assumptions of your knowledge of knitting and garment construction, and not in a bad way. Like, I don't think there's things missing. I think they're just a little bit abbreviated. I want you to know that so that if you try to jump in, you're not like disappointed or upset if you are a beginner. Maybe just save this for a couple, after you've done a couple of knits. Also, this is a textured knit. That would be hard if you were a brand new beginner, but hey, some people are much braver than me. What I thought was a little bit, and part of that is because she also, like, why I'm saying that for this pattern is I think it's pretty clear what you're doing, but there is a part of when you get to the V-neck that depending on your size, there is a lot of thinking of do this at the same time. And that was a tad confusing because of how you join for the round and some other things. I felt like I really had to think through what I was going to be doing once I got through my neck increases. And not even once I got through, but once I got to the neck increases really as the pickup, because you're doing a charted piece, you're doing some uncharted, some charted, and then you have to also know, like she tells you where to put a marker and you have to be measuring at the same time. But what I didn't do, and it did not mess me up, so I will tell you how I did it. I just measured instead of, even though I made a note of it, she doesn't refer back to, so sorry. When you're doing the back panel, she tells you to make a note of where you start your armhole increases. When you do the front panel, she does not tell you to refer back to that note. I forgot I had taken that note. And so, but at one point it's like, just make sure they match up for your armhole increase, after your armhole increases for joining in the body. And I was already started on the armhole increases on the second side before it's right before the join. I was like, wait a second, did I do the right row? I did 2 rows late. It ended up not being a big deal because what I did was I still wanted to join at the same place. So what I did is I just did my my second to last armhole increases on the front side before the join, did the back, no increases, added in my, however many stitches I need to at the armhole. And then in my first round that was already joined, I did another increase set there. So the increase set will just sit slightly under where this is sitting in your armpit. I'm not really worried about it. That's fine for me. I don't care. But that could mess you up significantly because this chart is relatively long, because you have your second of the larger is like a braided. So if you were far off in your measurements between front and back, or where you started your armhole increases, you could be like 6 rows off, and that would significantly change what you did. Mine was not a big deal, but I just wish that note had been made, like refer back to your armhole, like what row you marked for your armhole increases, because she told you to do that. It's fine. Ended up being fine. And yeah, we're joined. That's all that matters. We're joined. So this one I'm not on any kind of timeline. I do want to get it done so I can get pictures with Ariel in like the fall. Because I would love to have like it's my first vest. So for me, so I would love to have like a vest to be able to wear, with various fall outfits this year. So Lauder. Okay. I'm actually gonna skip talking about two of my next whips, which I cast on last week. I am going to skip the tessellated vest because though I did absolutely knit like 3 rows on it, that's not enough for me to show you. I really did like not even one full repeat. I was really focused on getting the Aurora Camisole done, which took a little bit longer because I did lengthen the body just a tiny bit. I had to sew down the bottom. It was like, you know, that's finishing always takes a little bit longer. And the tessellated vest, again, that's just a knit. That's actually a knit. I'm doing the make along for the Mosaic Mayhem for Casey at Young Folk Knits, but there's a deadline of the end of the year. So I have time. I'm not like going to push myself, and I want to just make some progress like in next week maybe. The other one I did not bring down is my field day cardigan for my mom. I do want to make significant progress on this week, but I did not do very much. I finished the short rows and like added 3 rows. Yeah, okay, so the back is getting started, but I want to just finish the back panel at least before I show you, which I will do this weekend. It's my next like real stockinette knit, so I'm excited to have that just for easy, you know, and it's a great, a pure stockinette knit for me is like the perfect way to end my knitting night because I can be listening to a book without focusing on anything else and just sort of like get a little sleepy vibes going. Okay. So here's the crazy thing I did this week. Oh, you know what? I'm going to preface this with our knitting group is extra. I know you've heard me talk about them before. There are 8 or 9 of us, and we really love each other and we love making matching knits. So we do this in a couple of ways. Sometimes it's a pattern that we all cast on together, and sometimes it's, well, I guess there's like 3 ways. Sometimes it's a pattern, sometimes it's like a yarn choice. Like we'll do another boucle knit this fall. Any boucle. I think we're probably all gonna, oh no, because I'll have a long dog boucle. So anyway, we'll just be using a boucle, and I think actually this year we're gonna do the same pattern, maybe, but like it doesn't matter if we were doing the same pattern, it's just a boucle knit. The other way we do this is all the same color. That's maybe my most favorite way because I love to see what patterns everybody's making, and seeing one color be so many different objects and look amazing for everybody it's just like, it gives me like so much joy. But we do love to make the same patterns. So with that being said, we made a calendar. And that's the extra piece. Yeah, of course, everybody who's knitting should just knit with friends if they want to. That's cool. But also having a Google Calendar that is shared amongst all of us that has cast on dates is extra. And we like that about each other, so it's fine. Katie, our fearless admin of many things, made us the calendar at Knit Night a few weeks ago. And one of the things we put on there is one of my Make 12 knits, which is the Birch. Actually, the Lauder, we were casting on that day. Ariel and I already had that plan, but then we put other things on the calendar. So one of them is the Birch Pullover, and this is a pattern by Andrea Mowry. It's been out for a couple of years. Several of the, Ariel and Emily maybe are the only 2 that have already knit it. Emily would like to cast on a second eventually, but me, Katie, and Ariel and Charlotte all cast this on this week at Knit Night. I don't have a ton done. I also need to measure my gauge a little bit because I'll talk about the yarn in a second, but like I'm feeling like that I'm pretty far off gauge. I don't want to go down another needle size, but I will if I have to. And it was a couple hours of work, but I'd rather it fit the way I want than having something that's extremely off gauge. If it's a little off gauge and is going to give me a couple extra inches, I will be okay with that. So I picked to do a size 5, which is 49.25 inches, finished bust circumference. The recommended ease is 0 to 6 inches. That's not a lot of ease for me. So if I was more like 53 inches, like if it added 3 or 4 inches, I'd be okay with that. I would not be mad about that, just the way that this fits and drapes. What I might do, like that also depends on my row gauge for this one, because I don't think I want it to be too far in the underarms. So I maybe would truncate that a little bit. And that's okay. I can make adjustments as I go. one of the things I'm really missing about raglan knitting, or I was until I cast this on, is like that the ease of making some adjustments. Like I can do a couple less increases if I both want the size to be down a little bit and I want my arm side to be a little bit lower. If I need more arm side rows, I can make a couple rows without any before I join body. Like there's just ease of use. That's how I feel about raglans. Okay, so this, I am using the recommended needle size I just cast on with them, which is 2.75. Okay, one of the reasons I'm worried about gauge too is because 4 of us cast on at the same time. Everybody's 2x2 ribbing was much tighter than mine. So this yarn is called, it's from Diamond Lane, which is Lamb and Kid. I think it's just their house yarn brand or whatever, and this is called Elmer Tweed. It is fingering weight yarn. I got this at Flock last year. It is 70% merino, 30% cashmere. I'm also very afraid that this is just going to be the most pilly mess thing ever, but you know what, it's fine. It's 400 yards for 100 grams. On Ravelry it says 410. I don't think that matters that much, but let's call it 400. It's so soft. I mean, absurdly soft. But and let's see if you can see this. Okay, also, how fun are those confetti? Sorry, I just like threw this at the camera, basically. The confettis are all different colors. I mean, most significantly, blue, green, pink, and yellow and orange. Okay, those are the colors that are in the confetti. It looks amazing knit up, but it is like, it's significantly fluffier than any other yarn I've used recently. Almost like to the woolen spun, I guess, like anything besides Euless. And like that's one of the reasons you can knit so many gauges with Euless, is that because it's that like fluffy sort of matte look, like it'll catch to be a larger gauge even on small needles. You can make it kind of tight, but it's harder. And I don't want to be fighting with this yarn, but I'm going to use it. Like there's no way I'm not going to use this yarn. So again, I'll just adjust sizes if I have to. That's not a big deal. This pattern is so I'm done short rows. That's where I got yesterday. And then I did not, I didn't do any like just raglan increases yet. It's this pattern, like, okay. I think, I did like one round because I think I enjoyed knitting this in flat so much, because you just knit the wrong side rows. When you are knitting in the round, you have to purl the wrong side rows. So half fisherman's rib just means that the front side is fisherman's rib and the inside is not. And if you need to know what fisherman's rib is done by knitting into the stitch below. So if you did a full fisherman's rib, you would be doing a purl into the wrong side below, knit one. You would be doing ribs still on both sides, and it does make it like, I think a reason you wouldn't do that for a sweater is that it would just make the whole thing more stretched out both ways, both in stitches and in rows. And so this kind of helps it to stay a little bit condensed, but you still get the look of fisherman's rib with the elongated ribbing. It's so pretty though, and it looks great in this yarn. I'm just not entirely sure how my gauge is, and I just didn't want to measure yesterday. So I like did a little bit of this like last night. I got through the short rows and I was like, we're going to call it good for now. I'll measure it another day. So if I have to rip back, I have to rip back, but it's fine. This is not a significant amount of the sweater. The neckline though, like I think this will sit okay on me, even if when it's blocked. I just won't have to, really lay it out at all. But yeah, again, it's maybe not going to be as high as her patterns, but I don't hate that. That's fine. This is a relatively like high neck, kind of like this one. It's like a high necked sweater, traditionally being, if you don't just do whatever you want with gauge. Okay. Anyway, I'm so excited for that. I've been wanting to cast that on. I mean, forever. Obviously, I got this yarn more than a year ago. I wanted to use the yarn too, so I'm very excited to just fully get into this. Okay, let's talk about the next thing I cast on, which I cast on, actually, to be fair, I'll probably switch the order of doing this next week. That was just on top of my new whips pile. The one I cast on before that is on Saturday, this past week, Rachel from ZZ Textiles and Jess from Witchfire Fibers, plus Lindsay Fowler from Larkspur Knits, who wrote the book Salt and Timber, which came out, I don't know, a couple of years ago, August 2022. So this pattern is in that book, and they were just, so sorry, the book was out, and then I guess the beginning of September, Lindsay was allowed to self-publish the patterns. And I think this is like probably a publisher's agreement, right? Like, we'll publish it, but you can't sell them on your own until X date. So now you can buy this pattern just as a standalone on Ravelry. Still a better deal, obviously, if you like a lot of patterns in the book to get the book, but you know, whatever. And this is called the Culmination Blanket. So between Rach and Jess and Lindsay, they hosted a knit along, like, cast on party on Zoom, which I joined. It was very nice just to see them. They're such lovely humans, all of them. We heard a little bit about, like, Lindsay, how she came up with this pattern, also like her experience taking the pictures of it and like having it in her house and using it, and what yarns she chose to use and why. And then we were like just all knitting together. So what I will say is I've got two really different size squares, and I'm sort of deciding what I want to do right now. So during the cast on party, I knit this one. So this blanket is sort of, it says bulky, but I would say it's almost a super bulky knit that you do patchwork squares, and you do squares however you want, and then you sew them together through like a crochet chaining kind of methodology after the fact, and you have a blanket. My mom doesn't watch the podcast, so I'm going to tell you this, but this is going to be a Christmas present for my mom. I went through my stash, and I was like, at first I was just like, well, what can I pull out that are either single skeins that I don't feel like I love, because that's a great way to use a single skein, and scraps. And I found a ton of fall colors, and I was like, okay, man, I'm just being fall influenced right now, but I have so much, and I'm never going to make these into sweaters. These are little babies that would never ever be worn by me like this. So I feel good about getting them into a pattern for someone to love. My mom loves fall colors. Orange is her favorite color. That's why the Field Day cardigan is orange. I'm making a lot of fall things right now. Okay, so I knit this one. The way that this pattern is made, though, because it's bulky weight, but you should be able to use any scrap you want, is that Lindsay assigns values, number values to all of them, and you're trying to get to a number all together with what you have. What she assigns for worsted, though, is 6. And I think that that would be true for a more Aran worsted, or something that just was a little bit like non-superwash. But these are two Back Loop Yarn Co. colors, and these are both superwash yarn, and it's not as plump as I thought it would be. And so, like, gauge wise, it just feels a little like not as dense as I'd want it to be. And this is going to be like a weighted blanket. This thing's going to weigh like 8 or 10 pounds, and it's going to be crazy. So the second one I made with some fingering weight scraps, a sport weight scrap, and a Sari. This Sari actually is lighting the whole thing up way, like really yellowy, is part of what was in my Instant Crush. So I'm not going to have Sari squares, a lot of them, probably like 4 or 5, but it's so soft. It's so nice. I finished this last night, and I like really love it. But these squares are, I could probably block this one out to be as big. It's close-ish. But it's not big enough. And I think I want this to be denser. This feels really nice and dense, and this, not flimsy, but it just, I would like it to be denser. So I actually might just rip this out and add one strand of fingering in here, and I think I'd get to what I want. So I TBD on that. I'm not going to do it right now. It's fine. I do think going forward, though, if I do 2 worsteds, I will add in a fingering weight or a lace weight or something to just make it plumper. Because, like, I mean, I could tell when I was knitting this, I was like, oh, this is definitely bulkier feeling than this. So that's what I'm thinking. Not a big deal. if I end up using this square, like I can block it to be big enough. It'll just be a dense, I mean, like, look, it's like relatively close. I just feel like I'd have to block both ways. Whereas these guys, I'm only gonna have to block to like peel down the edges, not measurement wise. Like it is pretty good the way it is. They're supposed to be a roughly a foot square. If you do the recommended what her needle size and yarn. Both Ariel and Katie also cast this on over the last weekend, and they are both using like a 6mm needle maybe instead of an 8, and less yarns per square, which is great, right? Like you have so much freedom with this. I don't think this whole blanket will be orangey. I was just going through what I have. I think I could pull in, I have a couple of colors of or skeins of like a really fall colored Malabrigo worsted yarn. So like what I'm using for my Belmullet, but they have green in them. So green and like a winey color. And so I think if I take a focus on the green, I don't know how I'll do it right now, but I think I could almost do like a gradient-ish. And I do have a lot of green scraps, and not a lot of them, but I have several green scraps that would look nice together. So I'm thinking maybe I'll do a couple of green squares, a couple of these, and I have a lot of that worsted yarn that I have like probably at least 4 skeins of that worsted yarn that has the green in it. So maybe a couple of squares that are just that held double with one green, and then maybe a couple that are held with the orange, and just like the way I could arrange them, like I could do a gradient from top to bottom or from corner to corner or something. And then I have some more yellows, oranges, and I have some more browns. So I could also, yeah, I'm gonna play with it. I could also do it random, and I think green, foresty green with orange is maybe a strange combo, but I think there'll be enough tying it together. We'll see how I feel. I'm gonna attempt to not really use acrylic in this, though I do have some acrylic yarn I could bump these up with and weight and stuff, but I want it to just be like a way to get rid of scraps that I'm counting, some counted, some not counted. I have some fingering weight scraps and other things before I was weighing and measuring all my yarn that I didn't weigh all my scraps individually and add them to the tracker. Since if I have used the yarn and have scraps left, those are in my tracker, so this will come out. Anyway, it's a great way to use a ton of yarn. And that's what I'm using it for this year. I do want to give this to my mom for Christmas though, so that's what we're doing. The goal of this through the make along is that, I mean, culmination, right? So for the end of the year, if you do 2 squares starting last week per week, you'll get, because there are 15 weeks left of the year, you would get 30, which is the size of the blanket that Lindsay made, which would get you a full blanket by December 31st. I will attempt to be done with this by Christmas time for my mom. So, and when I was pulling stuff out, I also found a significant number of other colors that I have like single skeins of in shades I probably won't wear, that I could maybe make another one and maybe a little bit smaller for when baby gets into an actual bed and uses blankets. She's still a crib baby, so we're not there yet, and maybe it'll be a next year thing, but again, with getting rid of some scraps. Sometimes I like keep some of, like, and some of them are like single skeins. You know, like this is the last skein for my Doppio that I did, and this color is, as we know, I love my Doppio, but not a great color on me. But I was like, oh, well, I could make something for Theo with that. But like, honestly, I'm not going to make her a ton of knit clothes until she's bigger, and then she's going to need more yardage anyway. So I just need to use them because they don't need to just live here forever. I mean, use them or I need to destash some of them. And it's not a lot of colors I don't like, and most of them I do have sweater quantities, but you know, sometimes you finish a sweater and you have a whole skein left over. It's like, well, I don't really want to make something striped with that. I'm done with that color. So that's what I'm going to use for some of this. Anywho, let's move on to the next project. So that's my culmination blanket. Again, patterned by Lindsay Fowler. I will be done with it sometime. The next cast on I have is one we talked about a couple of weeks ago, and that is when I got the yarn from Golden Age Studio Fibers. So the dyer there, her name is Marina. She's super nice. I met her at Flock, and then she had put a sample call out. We had talked about me sample knitting for her at Flock, and so I got the Doppio to do for her. As we just talked about Doppio, I love a Doppio. I love it so much. Revisiting this pattern this week, I was like, oh yes, all these yummy details. This is why I love it so much. I am done short rows, so I am ready to just be working regular round rows now. I did this all last night. It was it's so quick, like this gauge. So these are 6mm needles. I'm dead on for gauge. It's what I had last time. This is the same composition of what I used last time, 2 fingering weights and a Sari. I will be making one for myself this year too, in December, but this is just a sample. I cannot tell you the color names for this, but I can show them to you again. So we've got this really beautiful, like, it's like a lemon meringue yellow. Like it's lighter. It's not like a punch in your face yellow, but it's not just a super soft yellow. Like it has, you know, good hue. And then there's like these little orangey fiery bits in it. And then there is it's a pretty dark gray, and it's got like purple undertones to it, the gray, but it has those fun pops of yellow in them. And the yellow is like pretty significantly, I mean, it's pretty the same. And then the Sari is this like softer, it's got the purple hue to it still, but it's like a softer gray, and the purple leans brown. It's like a brownie purple gray. That's like so many words to describe a color, but I don't know what you would call this color exactly. Like it's really pretty. This is pretty much true to life, how it is. And they are all from the Magicians collection. So she's going to do the Magicians. I think color releases start the end of this month, maybe October. And the pre-order, I think, opens sometime in October. And here is, here, I've already showed you this, but here is where we are. The colors are playing really fun together because there's more yellow tone to it than I thought there would be. Sari always significantly changes sort of what the shadow is over top, but this Sari is like light enough that it's playing super nicely with these colors. So it's more yellow than I thought it would be, honestly. But you know, when you're holding yarns together, you just get random pops of what's more present. And they're twisting pretty much like, while I'm knitting, because I have 3 cakes together, I'm pulling from the outside. So I just get a little bit of twist when I'm pulling. So it's doing what it's doing. I won't be helically knitting this. I do have skeins, 2 skeins of each of these colors, but her dye, I mean, like they're very, very, very close in color to each other. And when I caked all of it, I didn't see significantly more speckles in any of the skeins. So I just am doing this, gonna just knit it straight. This is a size 3. This is, a pattern by Sungi Knits. Sungi has got 2 patterns that are just bangers. The second is what was her first? Was the Dear Duomo. I've not made it yet, but it is a bottom up, drop shoulder fingering and 1 strand of fluff held together sweater, and I have yarn in stash for it, and I'm gonna get to it eventually. I just think she also makes some thoughtful choices for how you knit it. Okay. Though this is a sample knit, I am also joining a little make along that Marlene Knits is kind of hosting an Instagram, and so there's not that many people in it, maybe like 15 or 20 people making a Doppio all together and watching Gilmore Girls. And actually, so I started this last night, and I did not put on an episode of Gilmore Girls. I was finishing up a book and I really wanted to finish it, but I will tonight put a couple episodes on after baby goes to sleep. One thing I want to note is I'm making the size 3, which is a 42-inch bust. It is, the recommended ease is 2 to 5 inches of positive ease. And, you know, that's what the choice that Marina made for her size. I do have her measurements, but I'm not going to share them on the podcast. One thing I will share, though, is I talked to her the other week once I got the yarn about any modifications she needed. So she did give me a sheet of like what she wanted to be made. But when I was looking at her measurements, and she included from her shoulder to her hip, it's pretty, she is short. I met her at Flock and I remember her being relatively short. But she and I were talking about what her measurements are. And I was like, okay, you're short, but like that's, you know, do you want me to adjust the pattern? Because it will be pretty long on you. And she was like, yeah, actually, let's adjust only body length, not in the arm side. So she just has a truncated trunk. Like her trunk is pretty small underneath of her, like at her rib cage to her hips is a very small distance. So I am not going to make any adjustments to the top of size 3. I'm going to check my row gauge pretty often to make sure I'm not adding any, just to make sure I'm staying on gauge for that, because I don't want it to be too long on her. This does have a relaxed fit. That's how the knit is. But this is already a little, you know, it's going to be a slightly oversized for her. So I'm thinking like if I read through the pattern again, where I am for gauge, I would maybe just, in the last set of increases, do an every row instead, because that'll still keep the compound raglan in expected shape. But it would be like taking out 2 rows from gauge if I needed to. And just because this gauge is pretty significantly big, that may make a difference. So that's all. Otherwise, I'm going swimmingly. So far, gauge looks great. It's just once you start really, because now I'm going to really truly be in the round. Sometimes that loosens up a tiny bit for me, so I just want to be cognizant of it. Yeah. Okay. The other thing I want to note is I did decide to do the raglan seaming, which I think I actually omitted from mine, but I did the body purl ridge. So I just decided to go with more structure for this. All you do is you're adding purl ridges at like between your raglan increases. And when I go back, and I didn't do it in my first one, I'll do it in my second. I'm going to make one size smaller for my second one, and I'm going to add these in both the top and the body. I seamed the body ones previously, and it's just a mattress stitch to pull your seam together. This does create a little bit of rigidity in your fabric, and it reinforces the strength of your fabric for something that has a relatively large gauge, both row and stitch. I think it's a smart idea. I know people don't want to go back and do that, and that's fine, fair, whatever. But I'm kind of excited to do it on this, to try it for hers and just feel, you know, like I'll be able to feel between one side done and the other not, like how much stretch you kind of take out of it. And because it is a pretty relaxed fit for me, my first one, I think I want that. I want to have that like slightly more firm kind of feel. So anyway, I have them in, and then I will do them for the body too. And that is where I am for my last new cast on. Okay, where does that take me for project number? This is why I said drowning whips. I will tell you, because I didn't even talk about 2 of them right now. I did not cast on the Doppio until I was also fully done and washed my Aurora Camisole, which is why I cast on last night. I didn't want to be in double digits, purely, even though I knew I was going to cast on this week. So I finished that first. So I have 9 projects. It's too many. I like 5. 5 is good. But I have 2 projects, the Culmination and my Heirloom quilt cardigan, which I don't feel stressed about, because 2 squares a week, which I'll probably do. I really didn't cast on until Saturday. So I have another couple of days. Like if I count truly the end of the week for that, I have another couple of days. I am going to try to do front load some of these culmination squares and get like maybe, you know, 10 done in the next 2 weeks instead of 4. Then I won't have to worry about it. And if I get a busy week, I get a busy week. But I do want to get that done for Christmas. So I just have to be a couple weeks ahead of schedule for that. The Heirloom quilt cardigan, I'm just going to keep plugging along at my 2 a week. And if I get a week where I feel inspired to make an extra, I will do that, but I'm not going to worry about it. And then, so those 2, I feel like low stress, low stakes for those 2. I do have 2 tests on the needles right now, and I have another one let's talk about in a second. But the Belmullet and 3 Seasons have been going well. The 3 Seasons definitely what I have to put the most work in on this week. Belmullet, I have some time, so if I just do a little bit, I'll be okay this week. Lauder, tessellated, and field day, I don't really have a deadline. Sorry, and Birch. The only thing that does have a deadline then is the field day cardigan. So the two things I just will be prioritizing next week are those. And then the Doppio obviously has a deadline because that's a sample knit. And I'm not worried about that one though, because I have a pretty long deadline from her, but also it's such a joy to knit and it goes so fast. So I may be done with it in just a couple of weeks, but I'm not going to kill myself to get there either. Though honestly, I could just only knit that for the next week and be done with it. And I would be so happy because I love that pattern. It's fun, it's fast, it's rewarding, it's so good. I'll do a similar thing though. I probably won't use, well, maybe I'll just try to get through the Sari before, and that'll get me through a significant portion, like all of the increases and maybe even a significant portion of the body. And then I'll go back to do the collar first and then the sleeves. Even though I can't try it on as I go, it doesn't really matter what order I go in. I still like the break, right? I'm definitely going to finish those before the body, but this is like it's a smaller size than I would have to make just by one. Next time I'll be making a 4, but it's just like such a joy. So much joy. Okay. And also I want to watch some Gilmore Girls. I did sign up for another test knit. I know. Don't yell at me. It's okay. Actually, who I signed a test knit for is one you guys haven't heard me maybe ever. I don't know if I've tested for her since I started the podcast, but that is Carly Perrins. She is a sock designer. She designs, I think she has a couple other accessories, but predominantly she designs socks. I think she has the best sock patterns. I mean, I have not made lots of sock patterns from everybody. I know a lot of people love Summer Lee, and I don't think I've ever made a Summer Lee pattern, but I love Carly Perrin's sock patterns. She does almost every pattern. There is both a toe up and a cuff down version for, which I think is so nice as a designer. When you test for her, you get all of them. You get like both versions, but usually she tests in collections. So for the price of like 2 patterns, you get 3, and you can get them all cuff up or all toe down, or sorry, all cuff down or toe up. And I am doing a toe up. I love toe up socks. I love cuff down too. I really don't know if I have a preference. It just depends on what I'm feeling like. And it's a DK weight sock. So also it's going to go fast. For the test, I only have to have 1 done. So I'm going to just fly through it in the next week and a half or so. A couple of years ago, I got this really fun sock set from a giveaway from Instagram. And this is from Stitch Noir. It's small batch yarn made in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. This was like for a pattern that she was giving out for free. And honestly, I got this yarn for a giveaway and I only had a couple more weeks to use the pattern code and I forgot. So I never bought it on Ravelry. That's okay. I already had a lot of sock patterns. I didn't need another one. And this color is called Pumpkinhead, like the set. It's DK sock. It's 75% super rush merino, 25% nylon. 350 yards total. So 250 for the big skein for 100 grams. These 2 little 20 grammers are 50 yards each. So that gives me a total of 350. That's plenty enough to do this socks that I picked out, you know, the pattern I picked, which I'm going to show next week. I'm not going to do it now, but I just wanted to talk about this yarn. I just really like, it's so fun. And I have not decided what direction I'm going to do. And these are going to be for me, even though I don't really wear orange colors. I love socks. Socks should be every color and any color. And I have lots of brown and yellow and socks that I, you know, definitely would never use for a pattern for my face, near my face. But really, really love this color. And this is like, does that not scream the most fall to you ever? Like, it's just the most, it's so fun. And the pattern is textured. We'll talk about it more next week, but, even with the crazy yarn, like that was kind of what she designed these for, like simple textures that you can use any kind of hand-dyed skein with or plain. So that's coming. So we'll have 10 whips. To be real, I mean, I'm not going to get something off the needles before I cast it on because I have to, but that is going to be sort of like a blip. And also I've not done a single sock this year. I haven't touched sock knitting since December 31st of last year when I finished my Vervain socks, and I miss it. I've been talking about doing a sock. I just haven't prioritized getting one on the needles. And though this won't really be a travel project because I do have to get it done relatively quickly, I think that'll get my sock mojo back, and then I'll feel like I can cast on one to just like have in the car and like maybe never only work on it in the car. but I'm excited for that. So I haven't cast it on. I got the pattern like yesterday, but the only reason I really didn't cast it on yet is because I'm getting a new winder, and so I'm just saving all of my yarn winding for then. Okay, let's talk about acquisitions. I forgot to talk about this last week. It was sitting next to me and I absolutely just forgot to talk about it last week. Speaking of Gilmore Girls, I'm actually not going to cast this on I probably won't do any of this year, but if I do a sort of long rewatch into the winter, like I really could. I don't watch a lot of TV. I really read books mostly. And when I watch TV, I'm watching with Mike, and he is certainly not going to sit through a rewatch of Gilmore Girls, but I do often stay up like an hour after he goes to bed because I knit. Bad habits. But I finally got my Gilmore Girls yarn from Treehouse Knits. This collection was out early, like really the spring, early summer. She had a lot of delays in just the last few hundred orders that she was shipping, but that's okay. I didn't need it right now. This one it smells like Guilt and Chanel No. 5. It's an ode to Emily Gilmore. Colorway. This one though, okay, look how floppy this is. I got 2 skeins of this to make, oh my, it's so silky. I am so excited. I really love this color. It's like a really rich, like winey color. This is her new, it was new during this collection, Cypress Silky Camel Base. It's 50% silk, 50% baby camel, and it feels amazing. I am so glad I did this. I'm going to make a summer top with it. Like silk is great for summer tops, and camel, I've never knit with camel before. Wow, actually this is the first time I pulled it out of the bag, and it's so soft. Wow, I'm like floored. Okay, I'm really excited. I'll probably cast that on you know, early spring and get myself like a summer top out of that. Probably I did pick out 2 different options. I don't know what I'll do with it exactly. And I want it to see like and feel it. The drape is incredible though. So now I'm thinking maybe I want to do something that has like a little bit of lace in it to give it a lot of movement. I don't know. Okay, we'll see. This one I definitely have a plan for. So this is the only other color I got. This is called In Bloom. It is the Magnolia Brushed Merino, which is 90% extra fine superwash merino wool, 10% nylon. It's 164 yards for 50 grams. I have enough yardage, and hopefully this will work density wise. I'm pretty sure it will. I'm pretty sure because there was a sample done in this of the pattern. That's not what influenced me actually. It was just the pattern coming out. But for the Broom by Andrea Mowry, I really want to make this. It's like a fluffy sweater. It's got a pretty oversized feel. I probably won't do as much ease as the pattern. It's got a similar funnel neckline to this one. It's really cute, really relaxed, and so this is not boucle, but this will be a fluffy knit for me. It's not what I'm going to use for our boucle cast on, but this is something I'm super excited about. Like that color too. This is like maybe a little outside of my color palette, but like I don't care. I'm gonna live in the sweater. You guys know I like to talk about the color palette and other things, but like it's not a prison, right? You can do whatever you want, whatever colors you really love, but you know, it helps me a little bit. I will say, if you're interested in color palette things, Amy from Knee Knits just got a professional color palette done, like a real human. I don't know if she went in person. I didn't watch all of the video, but I watched parts of it. I watched like more of like her color reveal, and then her talking about, she got like the actual, like basically like a little paint chip thing. She got that so she can always have like a physical one. And I think she probably has like a virtual one too. So she can make color choices too. And Amy from Knee Knits and I are relatively similar in coloring, and she thought she was a different palette than she really is, and was making some choices, and she has like a lot of like light gray and also like some cream knits and stuff, and she found out that those are not really great colors for her, including like some pastels I think she's likes the color of, but very similar to me, darker saturated jewel tones are where she should be, what she should be like wearing more of. Again, she even says in this, it's like you can, and the person said in this too, like these are guiding principles. You do not have to have every piece of your wardrobe. That's just what will make you look and feel best. For me, I'm going to make that anyway because I love it. Okay, let's talk about books. So the first book I finished this past week was the Rom-Commers, which is by Katherine Center. I've been reading like all Katherine Center books. She's got a lot of feels. Like she punches you with good, bad, ugly inside of a rom-com, making them feel a little bit more relatable, but like less fluffy maybe, even though they're still just, you know, romance books. Modern romance books. She has some fun print, like the premises are usually a little bit like wild but fun. So this one actually is I don't want to call her failed, a struggling screenwriter who gets asked to ghostwrite a romantic comedy, like a rom-com screenplay for her very favorite screenwriter ever, who's never done a romance, and his first version is awful. That's all you really need to know for the premise. She's got some stuff she's dealing with. He has a lot of baggage he's dealing with. They're just like they're like really fun characters. I think I would always give Katherine Center like high points for characters. The plot of this was pretty good. Her pacing is good. Like just overall, I found it like I really enjoyed it. I didn't want to put it down. I thought it was just so fun. So the next book I read was the first of a series. Only 2 of them are available at the libraries I have cards for, which now is like 6 libraries, by the way. Hot tip for anybody who lives in Washington State, you can get e-cards, like just at least for getting catalog access for like any books, ebooks or audiobooks from like most libraries are reciprocal, like big libraries in Washington. So I've got a bunch of cards now. Anyway, I can only find 2 of these books audio. So I read both of them this week. And the rest are actually on Kindle Unlimited, and I may just use these as like my nighttime reads now, because I haven't had anything that's kept my interest as a Kindle read. So the first one's called Mile High, and it is a Windy City. The series is called Windy City. These are interesting. So the premise of the series is that you're following different Chicago sports professional players, but from different teams. So it's not like one team. They are all connected to each other, but they are not like, the first one is a hockey player, the second one is a basketball player. I don't know which the third one is, but I think the third one is a baseball player. From the setup of the second one, that's what I feel like it will be. I didn't look yet. And these books are by Liz Tomforde. I'm also going to say, you'll see the title here, I say Tomforde because in the second book, that's how they pronounce her name, like the 3 times they say it. And I think like, maybe that's right. Hopefully she would have directed her audiobook people to say her name correctly. Okay. The first one though is about sort of like, he's a teddy bear of a guy, but he's like a goon on the ice, and he's got a whole persona, like a Playboy persona that he's putting on, player for the hockey team of Chicago. And these are all made up names. They're never anything to do with the regular ones. And he meets a flight attendant. They've got a private plane that they fly to all of their games, and they've got the same crew for the whole season. And that's like the first time that's happened. And so there's a flight attendant that he is drawn to. That's all I'll say about that. It was really fun. Rich athletes are fun to read about. I mean, like, I think I like that persona better than just like a random rich billionaire, because I think like all of the pressures and the other things they're under are like more understandable than just like billionaires making more money and feeling the pressure for that. Cause like, okay, it's my own preference. So then the second one is called The Right Move, and that one is about actually the main character's twin brother or female character from Mile High. Her brother is that's a big part of the story, but her brother is a professional basketball player. and it's his love story with her best friend also, of course. So a lot of interconnected there. The next character, I think if it's the baseball player, is more just like a friend of these people, so like less altogether. And this, it was very cute. I finished it last night, and it was good. It was, these are relatively steamy. Okay, so I think she addresses like some pretty good things in here. She talks a lot about people going to therapy. There's, like good modern romance things and tropes and stuff. I will say the plot for both of these at some point is a little bit like, the miscommunication errors it's not my favorite. I don't think it's just straight like, oh, I didn't tell you something or you assumed something. There's a little bit more flavor going on there. But like, I kind of like wish it was a little bit less predictable at the end piece. But like, otherwise I really I enjoyed them. You know what you're going to get for the most part from romance books. But I like when there's a little bit something different, or like the reason is just more significant than like, oh, I just misheard you, or I made an assumption and ran away, or whatever. Right. And I love that actually that all of her books, she has the characters do work on themselves in order for it to be not just like ask someone to just trust them and go forward, but like put their actions in place and then ask to be trusted and go forward. Right. So very fun. So then I read The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic, and this is a book by Breanne Randall. I think it's a series. I don't know. Let me check. So it's not a series. I don't think it's a series. Maybe there's going to be some interconnected books between like different magical families. But anyway, so this book is a very fall vibes, magic, small town, lots of goofy characters that come in and out. But it's a magical family who every person has some distinct kind of magic and a curse that goes along with it. And they kind of like talk about their family was cursed at one point, blah, blah, blah. But Sadie, the main character, her curse is that when she'll suffer heartbreaks, and when she suffers a fourth heartbreak, she'll also lose her magic. So she's very protective over her heart. She doesn't let people in. But she's like a really giving person. And so she just finds it hard to trust, all these things. It was good. I don't know that I love her writing style. So that it was a little bit, I'm not saying it's a struggle to get through, but it was definitely a little bit slower of a read for me. Like I needed to take breaks. One of the things I thought was like maybe off-putting is the right way to put this. Like there were multiple times where I felt like, and I'm not reading physically, so I'm sure there was like a page break or like a little, art scroll or something, but like the shifts to different scenes were relatively abrupt, in that I felt a lot of times like the conversation hadn't ended and then they're moving forward. Like it would be as simple as a quick sentence to just like give the closure to that scene before you go to the next thing. So it felt like kind of abrupt. I didn't feel like I got quite enough for, like, at one point her family returns, and I felt like there could have been some more build before for us to kind of get to know who these characters were going to be before they all show up, because then it's like literally they all show up at once and it's this rapid fire, like we're supposed to remember who they are, and they were all given distinct like single traits, but I didn't feel like there was enough around all of them. So character development was iffy. The main characters I felt like I understood pretty well. But I do feel like Sadie was a little bit of annoying of a main character, just like she was like just harping on this thing. There's a lot of grief they deal with in this. I also, one of the things that like took me out of it is the grandma's supposed to be this like gruff, she's a smoker, she's a no nonsense kind of lady. And she like uses a lot of swear words. It was supposed to be in an endearing way, and maybe it was just the way the narrator was saying it, but like it was too often, and like I just didn't like it. Like I thought that was a weird thing to decide for the character. Like you could make them gruff without doing that, and it took me out of the story a little bit. I also felt like some of the ways that the progression of plot and pacing was a little bit weird, and I didn't like, it was okay. It was an okay read. If you really love fall cozy vibes, like, this is not a bad one to read, but I just, like, I couldn't put it high on my suggestions for the year of things that I read. The last book I finished was actually a recommendation. Somebody recommended on the channel a few weeks ago. Maybe it's on the channel. It could have been in the Discord, but to read the Saints of Steel series, and the first one is called Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. T. Kingfisher is her pen name, so I don't remember. Ursula Vernon. But it is a book, it literally the top of the book, it says, when a god dies, who gets left behind? So the only thing I actually think is, like, I think this is a series. I think that there's not quite enough explanation about how these gods interact with this world, but essentially there are several gods, and they each get, like, they have their own churches set up of hierarchy, etc. And paladins are like protectors that will work for different, they not just this one god, but work for different gods. And this group of paladins, their god dies. You don't hear anything else about it. It's like the very, very beginning of the book. But their god dies, and they were all connected to the god because, like, the paladins were given extra powers because these paladins are berserkers. If you know what, like, berserkers are inside of, like, regular mythology, sometimes they're people that turn into bears, sometimes they're just really, really strong men that are bear-like, but, like, they essentially go into a rage of some sort, and they could, like, kill everybody in sight without any, like, feeling it. They're very hard to kill. There are some fun things that she put into here, like twists of, like, once berserker rages end, they have, like, a lot of body pain because, like, everything catches up to them at once. But they were connected to the god, and so they would be, like, sent, they're sort of like special agents. They'd be sent into situations where they would have to targeted kill, like, and just kill all the people, but, like, targeted kill bad guys. And so their god would, like that was the assistance they would give. But when their god died, they were sort of like arms for hire, and they were all afraid. And I guess it had happened right as the god died. Like, some of them went crazy. And so they're all kind of living in fear that they won't be able to control their rages going forward, because their god is the one that helped control the rages when he was alive. So again, the gods piece, I'm like, I'm not sure how that magic structure is really working fully. You do hear about other ones in the series, but, I very much so. This one is about Stephen, who is a paladin, and Grace, who is a master perfumer, like makes perfumes. So she's a nose, like, she has a really, really like very high sense of smell. And so there's a lot of things about scent in this, and, like, her mixing her things. She's also, like, a total introvert, and so is he, but, like, she's maybe more awkward than him, and he's, like, able to conduct himself in a lot of different environments because he was a man for hire. It's really interesting. It was a good book. I really liked the world. There's definitely spice in this, but not as much. Like, the story itself, like, it was very, like, the ramp was good. It didn't come out of nowhere. It was nice. I thought it was really fun. Also, definitely a little bit more fantasy than, like, a typical romantasy. Okay, here's one thing I wanted to talk about, and this is just because I forgot last week, and I put a note for myself, and so this is weird to have it at the end of a video maybe, but, like, I'm not wearing it, so I just didn't want to pop it in the beginning. I told you I was going to do something, and then when I wore it the other week and on the podcast, I absolutely forgot to talk about it. And one of my knit friends reminded me, like, oh, hey, did you ever do that fix on the sleeves? I can't even tell you which way. This side. So, let me show you. I'm going to get up here and close and personal. I don't know if I even took a picture of before and after. I might have, but I did do running stitches along the front of the right sleeve and the back of the left sleeve. So they're on both sides. So you can just see that I made it look like it was more following pattern here because I had that little gap. Whereas the back side, it just is because you don't knit the first part of the round, right? You're only doing from short row shaping here. It just makes it look a little bit more seamless on both sides. So you can't tell that there was that extra row that I picked up. We haven't gotten our tester payment yet, so I have not actually seen the final version of the pattern. I will check it out once I do and, give you guys any like notes or things that I still feel like those are changes I made. A couple people are making it already. I've seen pictures, a couple on the Discord. It's a lovely pattern. The texture is great. Just I don't know. I don't know what the final pattern looks like. So I don't have tons more to talk about this week. I'm gonna have 10 projects. Okay, it's fine. It'll happen. They'll all go down. This is a month for casting things on, I guess. Not to forget, we do have a very beginning of October cast on for the Traveler hoodie. That is our San Francisco Bay Area friends and us all casting on together. Some people are spinning their yarn for that, so it's not going to be like everybody, but yeah, we just picked a date for our Zoom call. I miss those girls. They're so great. So it'll be good to see them. It'll be good to do. I do have to get like something off my needles before then. The sock will be done by then, so that'll be good. And maybe that's all. Maybe the Doppio will be done. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? It'll be crazy. Yeah, so fun. I am actually not feeling that overwhelmed. You know what I think I'm going to do next week? I mean, I'll probably have a lot of project updates again, so I don't want to like do a super, super long episode, but we're really into fall now. Well, technically the first day of fall, I think, is September 22nd. So that's this, weekend or whatever. So I think next week what I will do is I will gather my favorite so far released patterns or things that are in testing that you should be looking for fall makes. So if you are a person who wants to make recent and new things, this is not going to be like all fall patterns that ever have been released. I'm talking like in the last probably 2 months and things that will release in the next month or two, just because that's a fun thing to look at, and I'm always looking on Ravelry anyway. So there's some that I really love. As a reminder, these will always be only size inclusive patterns, so there will be some things that won't make my list. And yeah, I'm excited to chat about those. I will probably try to pick things a couple different weights so that we have people at different climates or just your preferences. Maybe you'll find something you really love. I will be doing research on my own and sharing these, but if you have any below things you're testing, things that you really love, patterns you've seen that you think are gorgeous, again, let's keep it like, I don't know, let's do early summer. So from like June to now, patterns that have come out, put them below for me. Give me some ideas. I mean, I'll do my own research, but I'd love to include any that you guys collected. And I'm not going to do so many, but I might have a couple honorable mentions where I don't go into details. So yeah, pop those below. Also, as always, let me know what you're working on. This is another really hopefully fun question for you, but I want to know, do you have like favorite fall books or movies that you revisit, or things you've recently read and watched that give you all of the fall-y vibes that pull you in the mood? What are they? Share. I want to know. Maybe I'll watch them too. Maybe I'll read it too. Who knows? If you want to join my Discord for any of this conversation too, I'm on there. I'm responding to stuff. I also have really great, the people who are on the Discord are super fun and nice. And I just did put in a book channel. I read a lot, so there's now a channel for other recommendations and things. So if you have those for me, pop them in there or below. And anytime you need me, otherwise, you can reach out on Instagram or Discord if you're not on Instagram, and you join the Discord, you can private chat me there too. Okay, have a good one. Thanks for joining. I will talk to y'all next week. Bye.